In this video, we'll be using macros and context variables to modify the test case which was created in the last video. We have modified the bat files to take the file path as input argument, whereas it was earlier hard-coded. However, there is one problem with this approach. If we plan to change the file path, in that case we will have to change it in all the three locations. There is an easier way to do this in Cur. Instead of writing the file path in the action argument column of the test case sheet, we can replace them with a variable called macro in Cur. Macros are prefixed with a $sign and are assigned a value which cannot be changed at runtime. So let us replace these values with macros so that it's a lot more easier to change values using macros, as modification is required in one place and will be reflected in other places as well. In the macro sheet, we create a macro called file path, and here we enter the value for the file path. So now in the test case sheet, we can replace the arguments with the macro. So wherever the macro will be called, the value for the macro will be reflected there. We insert a few rows for the next test steps. Right now this test case would just create a text file and then it would verify the existence of the file and then delete the file. Now let's further modify the test case to read from and write to a file. In order to perform these operations, we need a temporary variable where we can store the value read from the file. In Cur, we can declare such a variable, and that is called a context variable. So unlike macros, the value of context variable can be changed at runtime. So now we will write the steps which are between create text file and delete text file. So we remove delete text file as the last step. Now we would call an atom that would write something to the file. This atom is called writeFile.bat. This atom is used to write into a text file. This is where the atom is located. This atom accepts two arguments. The first argument is the file path, which is the same macro that can be used to get the value for the file path. And the second argument is the text which is to be written to it. So this macro is created to pass the text. A value is assigned to the macro. Now we will call an atom to read the text from the file and store the value in a context variable. So we have to now declare a context variable. The syntax to declare a context variable is to write set context var in the action column and the name of the context variable in the first action argument column. So file text is the name of the context variable, and here we write the description. We use the atom readFile.bat, which is used to read the value from the file and store it in a context variable. The syntax to access a Cur context variable in a bat file is to write zookutility.exe, then alter context var to change the value of the context variable, then name of the context variable, followed by the value to be written to it. Zookutility.exe allows batch files to access the context variable defined in core. So this atom readfile.bat will take two arguments. The first argument is the file path, which is a macro, and the next argument will be the context variable. So after reading the value and storing it in a context variable, we will use the same context variable to match with the original text using an atom called matchText.bat. This atom will match the text with the text which is stored in a macro, that is $text. This atom is used for verification, and the first argument would be the macro, that is $text. The second argument will be the value for the context variable. The syntax to pass a context variable by value is to prefix and suffix it with a percentage symbol. So we now know when we pass a context variable by name, that is without percentage sign, it is passed as reference, and when we pass it with percentage sign, it is passed by value. So we verify that the value of the context variable matches with the value of the text stored in the macro. And finally, the deleteFile.bat atom deletes the file. Also, please note that the syntax to call an atom is to prefix the atom with an @ symbol. So we write the @ symbol and then the atom name. So in this test case, we write the test case description here. We write the description of the test case steps over here. In this field, we write the test case ID. In the action column, we set the context variable, followed by the atoms that are used. In these two columns, we write the action arguments, followed by the verification step over here. The location of the atom is mentioned in the config sheet. So the location is written in the script location field. So this completes the test case using macros and context variables. Thanks for watching this video.